Immediately, I had the feeling that this boat could be the earliest boat ever found in Egypt.
Underneath the sand is one of the most remarkable discoveries ever made.
Deep under the desert sands of Abydos, where Egyptian royals were buried, lies a secret that has baffled historians and explorers.
It's a very strange setting for a group of boats like this.
A fleet of ancient ships, large and mysterious, pointing to royals and the sea, rest where no ship should be. Why would the ancient Egyptians create a beautiful fleet of seaworthy ships only to have them buried in the desert where no one could easily find them? Perhaps they were built for a purpose that the modern world has yet to discover, or they hold secrets of ancient spiritual practices that their masters had to be buried with. This story will challenge everything you think you know about history. So join us as we uncover the mystery behind these forgotten fleets. The unearthing of an eternal fleet. It's the year 1988, and the relentless Egyptian desert is swept by a sandstorm that is so fierce that it partly exposes secrets buried beneath the sands of Abydos, a place that is already known in Egyptian history. As the winds die down from the storm and the dust settles, an extraordinary thing partly emerges from the golden sands. What is it? Worn-down wooden planks that are ancient and seem out of place protrude from the sand like the bone of a giant. Egyptian natives of the nearby towns, already aware of the mystery and rich history of the area, don't pay too much attention to this sight and just wave it off, as if they are used to the tricks of the desert. And for years, this partially exposed discovery remained untouched, waiting for someone else brave or curious enough to dare uncover its story.
Underneath the sand is one of the most remarkable discoveries ever made.
True enough, in 2000, a team of archaeologists, brave enough to weather the harsh reality of the desert for legend, set out for this buried treasure. Armed with their tools, a thirst for ancient secrets and pure tenacity, the team returned to the site, only to be met with a breathtaking discovery. There, buried under the golden sands of the desert, was a fleet of 14 boats, each one almost 70 feet long, much longer than a city bus, and perfectly arranged with the precision of a pharaoh's decree. These boats, although battered by years of harsh degradation, termites, and the elements, still retained their majestic outlines. They were not just boat models or ceremonial toys, but they were true ships. Ships that may have been built to conquer the seas or fight wars now rest in the heart of the desert. As these modern discoverers dug deeper into the sands to grasp the secrets of the ships, they made another mind-blowing discovery. The ships were over 3,000 years old, as revealed by carbon dating. This meant that these ships were crafted around 2,800 BC, years before the Great Pyramids of Giza. When this revelation became clear, it sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology and raised questions in the minds of experts. How could such a creation have existed in an era that is covered in mystery? But these questions and the intrigue were not the only things to think about. When these boats were examined, it was discovered that each one was cradled within its own mud brick enclosure. Also, the walls of the boat were meticulously whitewashed and adorned with over 100 intricate drawings, a glaring proof of the boat's significance.
These are colossal structures. The people watching from the riverbanks would have seen nothing like this ever before.
The chambers, too, were nowhere close to any ancient shoreline, and the famous Nile River was far from the horizon. So why would anyone build and bury a fleet in the middle of the desert? The answer is believed to be intertwined in the spiritual essence of ancient Egypt. The careful alignment of the boats when they lay in silence also pointed to a purpose that was far from physical and practical. Could they have been destined for something specific, like a journey, or were they part of a ritual of kings and pharaohs? Abydos, already worshipped as a sacred ground, is now blessed with a new legend, the burial site of an eternal fleet. And as the archaeologists gently free each ship from its sandy tomb, they are not just freeing wood and brick, but they are resurrecting a chapter of human history that promises untold secrets of the past. The ancient holder of Egyptian craftsmanship. Imagine you are standing before an enchanting array of boat fragments going back thousands of years, each piece carefully arranged like pages from a book. Remember that these are not relics or ornamental trinkets that have been left out to gather dust somewhere in a burial chamber. They are dazzling masterpieces of the ingenuity of ancient Egypt, created thousands of years ago with a sophistication and skill that still baffles the modern mind. Truthfully, these ships were not just burial props or symbolic offerings. They were real ships that have now challenged what we thought we knew about the early Egyptian civilization. Picture the view in your mind, the boats, each uniquely sized, echoing the hierarchy of the mighty pharaohs they were created for.
Only the king could expend resources at this level.
The largest boat, discovered beside the mortuary enclosure of Pharaoh Khasekhemwy, was more than 70 feet long, a true master of the Nile. But size was not all that mattered, because even the smaller vessels measured about 50 feet, with the same level of craftsmanship and attention to detail. All of this showed that the ancient builders did not settle for the primitive dugout canoes of their contemporaries. Instead, they embraced a technique known as plank-built construction that joined cedar planks imported from Lebanon, side by side and edge to edge, to form a hull so smooth it became one with the water it sailed on. And another one of these glorious discoveries was the knowledge that Egypt was already involved in international trade routes back in the time of these ships. How did we know about this? The imported wood planks from Lebanon. For a kingdom that appeared to have it all, culture, science, spirituality, and knowledge, Egypt still understood that it did not truly have it all. But they did not allow this to stop them from reaching out to other regions rich in what they lacked, for exchange and purchases of meaningful tools like the powerful cedar wood. But the true magic of these ships was that the planks were not joined together with metal. With a puzzling skill and precision of pre-cut joints, the planks were held together by rope lashings that were threaded through perfectly drilled holes. No metal screws, no metal nails, just pure, undiluted skill.
Now, it looks a very unlikely technique to us today, but it clearly worked.
Modern computer analysis revealed that the artisans who built the ships achieved a tolerance of less than a millimeter. Just take a minute and think about that. A level of such precision was achieved with only copper tools and determination, channeled to a creation that made today's engineers scratch their heads. However, the magic did not stop there. Inside the ship, a skeleton of acacia wood frames and a system of stringers evenly distributed the weight of the boat with efficiency, transforming each boat into a living structure that was built to endure, to sail, and to carry their precious cargo on land and sea. And the whole evidence is right there, marked onto the skin of the wood itself, through patterns of wear and tear that hint at a story of sails on the seas, patches and repairs that whisper tales of a life well lived. But although the story of these ships' construction is extraordinary, it is just one part of the deeper mystery because the question still remains. Why were these vessels buried? What role did they play in the lives of ancient Egyptians? If you are as intrigued as we are, don't forget to drop a like, because the real adventure has only begun, and the secrets of the Nile are far from over. The symbolic vessel for a higher calling. If you truly want to unlock the mystery of the Abydos Fleet, you must take yourself back in time and peer through the mystical lens of ancient Egypt and its spiritual world. To them, death was not a cold, silent ending, but a grand passage, a celestial migration to another realm, where the soul's journey was as real as the flow of the Nile. In this context, boats were not mere wooden vessels for a physical journey. They were the chariot of the gods and the cosmic ships that ferried deities across the heavens and through the seas of the afterlife.
And it looks as if it's a very good alternative to the nuts and bolts we might use today.
The one god central to this belief was the sun god, Ra, the god believed to travel across the sky during the day and the underworld at night on a solar boat.
Khufu's 4,600-year-old vessel, known as the Solar Boat, embarked on a 10-hour journey from the Giza pyramids.
Pharaohs were believed to be the living incarnations of Ra himself and were destined to follow the divine voyage after death, a journey that had nothing to do with physical distance, but of transformation and eternal renewal. Now imagine Abydos and the role it played in this spiritual belief, a sacred place with sands housing the essence of kings and gods. It can only mean one thing: the discovery of the ships was not an accident. They were built for a different kind of voyage, a spiritual one. As each vessel was significantly nestled in its own mud brick enclosure, it was part of an elaborate funeral stage. The faded paints on the chamber walls and the careful orientation and construction of the hulls, all part of a ritual choreography designed to prepare the pharaoh for his adventure. But it gets deeper. The boats were not simply buried whole, they were disassembled, and their pieces arranged with a precision that almost seemed obsessive. Could this have been a final act of devotion by their subjects, or a ritual dismantling to guide the soul through the afterlife? Because even in their silent position, each boat pointed to the Nile, as if yearning for one lost journey of spirit and myth.
On a magnificent journey on the Nile, for a long time, the river was linked to the direct intervention of the gods.
Some scholars whisper of funeral processions where the ships sailed the Nile River physically, bearing the precious cargo of a pharaoh's body before it was laid to rest. But even after that, their true purpose was always otherworldly. In the myth of ancient Egypt, a grave is not a prison, but a portal, and every object entombed with a pharaoh was meant to serve him in the afterlife, just as they had in life. So the boats that the modern world has only just discovered are part of the entombed possessions of pharaohs, buried along with their owners and kings. But why Abydos? From here, the reality and discovery take a more spiritual turn. It was the resting place of Osiris, lord of the afterlife and resurrection, and each year, festivals recreate his journey, complete with sacred boats in procession, echoing the death of the god and his return to life. Pharaohs who were buried at Abydos were not just seeking to join Osiris, they wanted to become him, to merge their essence with the god and claim the promise of resurrection. So these boats were not just vehicles, they were also instruments that carried the soul of a king through death to the dawn of the afterlife. The fact that not 1, 2, or 3 of these vessels, but 14, were entombed for years showed that it was not just a custom, but a ceremonial belief. In the end, these ships uncovered from Abydos are more than artifacts. They are echoes of a civilization that believed in a life beyond death, enough to invest their riches and artistry to ensure their rulers sailed forever on waters of eternity. But to truly understand the mystery of the Abydos ships, you must also understand the sacred nature and spirituality that surrounded the place where they were uncovered. Abydos, a sacred kingdom rooted in the afterlife. Before it exploded in the public eye as the hallowed ground for another one of Egypt's marvels, Abydos held a mythical and profound significance on its own. To the ancient Egyptians who knew and revered it as Abeju, it was more than a dusty desert. It was the resting place of the first pharaohs, notably Osiris himself. If you're already familiar with Egyptian history and methodology, you can imagine the sheer amount of spirituality and history that clings to this place. But to the modern archaeologists, it is the home of ancient Egypt's mysteries, a breeding site for the most tantalizing of ancient Egypt's mysteries. Merely 11 kilometers away from the Nile River, this long stretch of desert on the west bank of the Nile River holds the record for being Egypt's most sacred burial ground and is located approximately 300 miles south of Cairo. Abydos has seen lots of Egyptians from all walks of life who journey there on pilgrimage to seek the blessings of Osiris and secure their own passage to the afterlife. By existing for over 3,000 years and becoming the burial place of kings, Abydos became deeply spiritual. And it was in this sacred and spiritual landscape, charged with religious significance and royal power, that archaeologists made the most remarkable maritime discoveries of the ancient world. A mystical echo through time and culture. The Abydos boats are not just ancient structures, they are whispers from a time when the boundary between life and the afterlife was navigated by vessels carved from wood and faith. Imagine a tradition so strong and deeply rooted that it spans across different cultures, where boats were sacred chariots that ferry souls to the afterlife on supernatural waters. These boats, although buried in the sands, are among the oldest known ships, and yet they belong to a bigger story of boat burials that flow through the history of man. For example, the solar boats of Khufu were found nestled beside the Great Pyramids, although they are almost 1,000 years younger than the Abydos ships.
Khufu's boat is the largest ancient royal vessel ever found in Egypt.
They still have the same sacred purpose, which is to accompany the pharaoh on his celestial journey. But unlike the simple sand graves of Abydos, the boats of Khufu were entombed in stone-lined pits, guarding them against the enemy of all living things, time and the elements. The difference in burial practice did not just show a shift in preservation techniques, but a deep reverence for the afterlife and the journey through it. The craftsmanship also tells a good story of progress. Khufu's boats were crafted by shipbuilders who had more advanced tools and methods that surpassed their predecessors.
It was built for King Khufu, the second pharaoh of the 4th dynasty of Egypt's Old Kingdom.
This was a display of a flourishing union between religion, technology, and power, but even then, the sacred boat burial remained constant. Along with this belief was the knowledge that this activity was not only reserved for kings and pharaohs, as nobles and officials across Egypt embraced the tradition. Beyond the borders of Egypt, boat burials represent a widespread phenomenon in ancient cultures, suggesting that the association between boats and death transcends specific religious or cultural traditions. But the mystical marriage between boats and death was far beyond the boundaries of a single civilization, as this belief cast its spell across continents and cultures with breathtaking consistency. The tomb of Meketre, a chancellor of the 11th dynasty, contained an entire fleet of model boats, with each one designed for a specific purpose in the afterlife: fishing boats, traveling boats, and ceremonial vessels. And by doing so, it painted a vivid picture of a world where the afterlife reflected the physical life in its needs. Another famous example comes from Scandinavia, where Viking ship burials have captured the popular imagination with their fiery send-offs to their rulers on boats pushed out to the waters. This is opposed to the Egyptians' emphasis on preservation. But even then, both cultures use boats and go as far as enshrining them as an essential vessel for the journey. They speak the same ancient language of boats and burials, but they differ in their methods. In Mesopotamia, the graves also echo a similar theme of a universal human impulse to navigate the unknown journey after death through boats. How remarkable is it that these cultures and regions, separated by time and distance, still share the same belief and intuition that boats are faithful carriers of the physical body across dimensional planes. In their common belief, boats were the perfect vessels to transport the soul from the living realm to whatever realm existed outside of life, the afterlife, or Valhalla. Now, what sets the Abydos boats apart from other cultures is their antiquity. Studying these boats is like tracing the evolution of human ingenuity and spirituality, from the precise planks of Abydos to the masterful constructions of Giza. Each vessel bears stories of craftsmanship, belief, and the eternal human desire to conquer and subdue death's final frontier. Where most cultures buried individual vessels in moments of personal grief or celebration, the systematic interment of multiple boats over centuries reveals something far more significant: a state-sponsored dialogue with eternity, a royal commitment to the sacred that would define pharaonic legitimacy for millennia to come. And while other boat burial traditions emerged from tribal wisdom or regional customs, these ancient vessels represent the maritime funeral practices of one of history's first civilizations to truly grasp the concept of unified rule under divine authority. So if you are captivated by the mysteries of ancient Egypt and the profound symbolism of these sacred boats, then share this story with others, because now we're about to go deeper into the archaeological techniques that expose the secrets of the past. Modern solutions to ancient secrets. From the moment these fragile vessels were discovered from their sandy tombs in the 1990s, archaeologists faced a daunting challenge. These ships were not mere stone relics or shards of pottery. They were delicate, organic masterpieces, with thousands of splintered fragments scattered like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle across burial pits, tangled with ancient ropes and wooden pegs. Each fragment whispered stories of a time when the Nile was the lifeblood of Egypt, and these boats were the vessels of dreams, trade, and perhaps even ritual. But revealing these stories was no simple task. The wood, dried and brittle from millennia under the desert sun, threatened to crumble with the gentlest touch. The excavation team became guardians of time, wielding soft brushes, dental tools, and gentle puffs of compressed air to coax the boats back into the light, each fragment carefully documented as if it were a precious jewel. As the pieces emerged, a new challenge arose: how to breathe life into these scattered relics and understand their original grandeur. Enter the realm of cutting-edge technology. Photographs taken from every conceivable angle were woven together by specialized software into stunning 3D models, digital puzzles that preserved not just shape and size, but the intimate dance of each fragment's place in the whole. It was like watching history reconstruct itself, pixel by pixel. The story deepened with the microscopic analysis of the wood itself. Experts peered into the wood grain, unveiling secrets of ancient forests and far-flung trade routes. Cedar from Lebanon, acacia from the Egyptian deserts, and hints of timber from the eastern Mediterranean painted a vivid picture of a world connected by commerce and craftsmanship long before the pyramids pierced the sky. Yet, even time's own clock, radiocarbon dating, posed riddles. The boats were crafted from wood seasoned over years, sometimes decades, making the timeline a delicate tapestry to interpret. The boats could well be older than what we know, and there was no way to really tell without ruining one of the most precious discoveries of the 20th century.
The boats must represent a kind of offering to him.
Meanwhile, preserving these ancient timbers demanded innovation beyond traditional museum methods. The desert's extremes had hardened the wood in ways no one had seen before, further pushing conservation science into an unknown territory. Perhaps the most captivating chapter of this saga was the revival of ancient shipbuilding itself. Collaborating with traditional boat builders across Egypt and beyond, researchers embarked on a journey of experimental archaeology, recreating vessels with nothing but the tools and materials their ancestors might have known. This hands-on resurrection breathed life into the past, revealing the extraordinary skill and ingenuity of ancient craftsmen. And as the project sailed forward, digital modeling became a beacon of discovery. Using software born from modern naval engineering, scholars constructed virtual boats that could be sailed across simulated Nile waters, unlocking secrets about their design, speed, and purpose. It was history brought to life in a way that no dusty tome could ever achieve. But the Abydos Fleet story didn't end there. Sophisticated scientific techniques peeled back layers invisible to the naked eye, showing traces of ancient paints, organic residues hinting at ritual offerings, even forensic analyses probing whether these boats had borne sacrificial rites. Each revelation added depth and mystery, weaving a tapestry of culture, belief, and innovation in a stunning way. Behind the scenes of this analysis, digital databases came forward as unsung heroes, managing the interconnected connections between thousands of fragments. Traditional methods of taking records failed here, but the Abydos challenge birthed breakthroughs that now spread across archaeology all over the world. In the end, the Abydos Fleet is more than a collection of ancient boats. It is the evidence of human curiosity, resilience, and knowledge. And through these vessels, the past whispers its secrets to us, inviting us to listen, wonder, and sail along with the ancients on the river of history. A new look at ancient Egypt. Before the discovery of the Abydos boats, many scholars assumed that sophisticated shipbuilding techniques developed gradually over centuries, reaching their peak during the Old Kingdom period with vessels like the Khufu boats at Giza. But with the Abydos discovery, it has revealed that complex sewn plank construction, precision joinery, and sophisticated design principles were already fully developed by 3000 BC, nearly a millennium earlier than previously thought. What does this mean for ancient Egypt? It simply means that the boats have also revolutionized our understanding of ancient Egyptian international relations and trade networks.
And in ancient Egypt, only one person can afford such an immense investment.
The presence of cedar wood from Lebanon in boats dating to the First Dynasty provides the earliest concrete evidence of large-scale trade between Egypt and Lebanon, relationships that were previously thought to have developed during the Old Kingdom. The religious and ideological implications of the boat discoveries have been equally transformative. The scale and sophistication of the boat burials demonstrate that complex beliefs about the afterlife, divine kingship, and cosmic order were fully developed from the very beginning of pharaonic civilization. Rather than evolving gradually over centuries, these fundamental aspects of Egyptian culture appear to have emerged in their mature form alongside the political unification of the country. In plain terms, the Abydos boats have changed not just how we understand ancient Egypt, but how we think about the capabilities of early civilizations in general. They've shown us that complexity, sophistication, and profound spiritual insight are not modern inventions, but have been part of human culture from the very beginning of recorded history. If you've learned a thing or two from us, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.